In January 2025, Los Angeles was struck by one of its most catastrophic wildfire events. Fueled by fierce Santa Ana winds, the flames roared across the city with an unrelenting intensity. Entire communities were obliterated, with over 10,000 homes and buildings reduced to ash. The fires claimed the lives of 11 people and forced 180,000 residents to flee in panic, seeking shelter in safer areas. The devastation spread rapidly, tearing through affluent neighborhoods like Pacific Palisades and historical landmarks, including the Will Rogers Ranch. The once clear skies turned to a suffocating haze of smoke, casting a hellish orange glow over the city. Emergency shelters overflowed as families shared the horrors of their narrow escapes from the advancing flames, while exhausted firefighters fought bravely to contain the infernos. The disaster's impact was far-reaching. Wildlife habitats were decimated, leaving animals to wander into suburban backyards in search of refuge. The city, usually vibrant, felt eerily quiet, with only the sounds of emergency vehicles and helicopters fighting the blaze. Despite the tireless efforts of first responders, the flames spread faster than they could be contained, leaving behind a deep sense of loss and hopelessness. Amidst the chaos, 18-year-old Barron Trump, who was in California for family engagements, found himself drawn to the disaster. As the fires ravaged the city, Barron closely monitored the news and social media, increasingly captivated by the unfolding tragedy. While most focused on the sheer scale of the destruction, Barron noticed a peculiar pattern. The ignition points of the fires seemed too organized, almost deliberate. His curiosity piqued. Barron began mapping the fire locations using public data from news outlets and fire department reports. What emerged was startling. The fires didn't seem random, but rather orchestrated, as if someone had intentionally set the stage for destruction. When Barron shared his suspicions with his parents, they encouraged him to explore further but advised caution. Despite facing skepticism from local authorities, who were overwhelmed by the ongoing crisis, Barron felt compelled to continue his investigation. Undeterred by their dismissive responses, he pressed on, believing that the fires were not just a natural disaster, but part of a far darker plan. His persistence would lead him into a world of secrets and danger. Despite the growing conviction that the wildfires were not entirely accidental, Barron's attempts to bring his findings to local authorities were rebuffed. Officials, struggling to manage the aftermath of the catastrophe, dismissed his concerns as unfounded. They chalked up the unusual patterns to the unpredictable nature of wildfires. Undaunted, Barron continued his research, refusing to let his theory go unexplored. He reached out to fire experts and local authorities, but most of his efforts were met with indifference or outright rejection. Some even reassured him that the professionals were already handling the crisis and that his theories were irrelevant. However, Barron remained resolute. As his investigation deepened, he began to uncover troubling evidence suggesting the fires were not simply a natural occurrence. On online forums and social media, he came across drone footage near Pasadena that showed a small flare descending from the sky just before the fires ignited. The video was grainy, but it hinted at an unnatural ignition source, reinforcing Barron's suspicion of deliberate interference. Eyewitness accounts further fueled his theory. Residents reported seeing drones hovering near properties just before the fires started, as well as unmarked utility trucks and strange explosions occurring during the night. One woman even shared photos of burn sites with perfectly circular scorch marks, suggesting a controlled method of ignition. As Barron pieced together the evidence, a new pattern emerged. He examined land acquisitions in fire-ravaged areas and found that shell companies, including one named Solvista Holdings, had quietly purchased high-risk properties at inflated prices. This raised suspicions that the fires may have been part of a larger scheme designed to profit from the destruction. Barron's findings soon attracted attention from darker forces as he delved deeper into the connections between the fires and suspicious land deals. A cryptic message appeared in response to his online posts. "You are closer to the truth than be careful who you trust." Determined to uncover the truth, Barron reached out to Linda Moreno, a respected investigative journalist known for her uncovering of corruption. Listening intently to Barron's theories, Linda agreed to using her contacts. She obtained internal documents from Solvista Holdings, revealing plans to expedite redevelopment in fire-stricken areas. The documents implicated Solvista executives in deliberately orchestrating the fires to clear land for. As Barron and Linda's investigation gained momentum, so did the threats against them. Barron was followed by a black SUV, his hotel room was broken into, and his belongings were a chilling note was left behind. "Stop digging." Despite the escalating danger, Barron remained steadfast in his. The investigation ultimately uncovered a shocking truth. Solvista Holdings, a shell company, had orchestrated the wildfires for financial. Barron and Linda's exposé revealed that the company had used drones to ignite the fires and purchased land in fire-prone areas for redevelopment. Documents showed that executives from Solvista had plotted to expedite rebuilding efforts in these areas, profiting from the destruction they had caused. The public reaction was swift and furious. Protests erupted outside Solvista's headquarters, and federal authorities launched an investigation into the company's practice. While CEO Victor Grayson fled the country to avoid prosecution, the damage to Solvista's reputation was irreversible. For Barron, exposing the truth came at a great personal cost. While he was hailed as a hero by some, he also faced intense media scrutiny, an increasingly dangerous threat. His hotel room was ransacked, and the ominous black SUV became a constant reminder of the peril surrounding him. His family, concerned for his safety, arranged for him to move to a secure location. Despite these challenges, Barron continued to speak out, advocating for transparency and accountability. His courage inspired others to come forward with their own evidence, fueling a broader movement for justice. In the aftermath of the exposé, reforms were implemented to prevent similar incidents. Legislation was introduced to regulate land acquisitions in high-risk areas, and a task force was established to investigate the use of drones in criminal activity. Solvista Holdings was dissolved, and several of its executives faced criminal charges. Barron's experience profoundly impacted his future. He became a vocal advocate for environmental justice and corporate responsibility, using his platform to fight corruption. While the wildfires caused immeasurable destruction, Barron's determination brought about meaningful change, shedding light on the dark forces that exploit disasters for. Reflecting on his journey, Barron acknowledged the personal sacrifices he had made. His life would never return to normal, but the reforms he helped inspire gave him a sense of purpose. His story became a powerful testament to the importance of courage and integrity in the face of overwhelming adversity. In the months following the exposé, Barron Trump's life continued to be shaped by the extraordinary events of January 2025. The firestorm of media attention and public outrage began to settle, but the weight of the truth he had uncovered left a lasting mark on both him and the world around. As the investigation into Solvista Holdings progressed, Barron found himself at the center of a broader movement for environmental and corporate accountability. While the government's crackdown on companies like Solvista brought some relief, the fight for justice continued. Barron, now thrust into the limelight, became a prominent figure in the movement, using his voice to push for sweeping reforms in corporate practices, environmental protection, and disaster prevention. His experiences with corruption and the lengths people would go to for profit had instilled in him a deep sense of responsibility. Despite the constant threats that lingered in the background, Barron refused to back down. His family remained supportive but also vigilant, ensuring his safety as he continued his advocacy. The pressure and scrutiny he faced were relentless, but Barron grew into a more resilient and focused individual, determined to ensure that such greed-driven exploitation would never again devastate innocent lives. Public opinion about Barron remained divided. While many hailed him as a hero, others questioned his motivations, accusing him of seeking personal attention or exploiting a tragedy for his own. Yet Barron remained undeterred, knowing that the truth was on his side. The documentary-style investigation that followed his exposé gained international recognition, further cementing his role as a key figure in the fight for accountability.